everybody. I want to welcome you back to the Dynamic Decisions podcast, where we explore the strategies that drive successful decision making in the world of business. Why? Because the best decisions come from great conversations. I'm your host, Teasha Cable, CEO of C Model Data, and today we have a visionary leader in revenue growth and education technology. His name is Justin. He's the Chief Revenue Officer at Uconnect. With his extensive experience leading sales organizations and driving scalable growth, Justin is at the forefront of transforming how students engage with career resources through Uconnect's all-in-one virtual career center platform. Justin, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to hearing more about you and more about Uconnect.
All right. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Would you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about your background? Tell us a little bit more about Uconnect and all the good work you're doing there.
Yeah. So I've got a history in go-to-market in both sales as well as customer success. Kind of came up through the ranks in SaaS technologies, both in marketing automation and CRM. In the last round in ed technology, and Uconnect is the leader in career services content, and we develop a platform for really enabling the students and colleges to kind of come together around career and really help them navigate to their professional endeavors after college.
So, Justin, one of the things that I've seen here is that you have set ambitious growth goals, something like 5 times in like sales pipeline at Uconnect. What are the key strategies that you've implemented to build a scalable sales process to help you sort of achieve this rapid expansion? And then in that, how do you balance aggressive growth goals and maintain a motivated and effective sales team?
Yeah, I think, the most important thing is to have an understanding of what are the key components to kind of achieving the growth along that pipeline. Starts with your overall market size, the total number of leads to meetings requires, your overall conversion rate, thorough understanding of the data that drives the metrics that ultimately you need to achieve. It's not kind of random. It's not a kind of spray and pray, and it's not crossing your fingers and hoping you can get there. It just really comes down to, the numbers. Ultimately is a numbers game, as far as I can tell, and really applying the best strategies to each one of those stages to help you kind of convert effectively.
I like to tell people that sales isn't just something you just walk off the street to and just do. Like, there is a process, and you're sort of explaining that. This is why the best sales leaders have been around for a long time doing this work. And it's regardless of technology. Like, some people wonder how someone could come off the street. Maybe they've been doing this for 30, 40 years, and it doesn't even matter what it is that they're selling. They can come through and start to understand those details. They understand the function of growing something in a market. So collaboration between sales, product, and marketing is typically critical. I know it's critical at Uconnect. Can you share how you've worked with teams to refine the market position or modular pricing strategies, things that enable you to expand your footprint across leading universities?
So it's critical to be kind of very collaborative with the partner. I tend to take a product first approach. We can sell what we have to offer, but it's got to deliver to the customer. And so we've got to make sure we're in a position to make sure that whatever it is that we're solving for can ultimately be delivered. And it starts with that product strategy. Our founder had a strong vision for what Uconnect was designed to solve for, and that product has been kind of built around that. And you have to be able to support that overall mission. So it starts with, like, what is the ideal kind of problem that we solve for? What's the outcome that we're going to deliver for that? And then how do we kind of position Uconnect to be delivered against that relative to overall kind of challenges and pains that customers might have? And when you enter a conversation, typically that starts off as what we call a discovery call. We're often asking, what's keeping you up at night? Or what are the major pains that you have? And it can often come from different places because every customer has a different experience in their office. Even though we look at it more, I would say, holistically, as if every student has a common challenge and a common pain, each school might approach it slightly differently. And so while their pains might be very specific, we kind of step back and really understand it. Like, what ultimately are we trying to achieve? And we're trying to really achieve greater outcomes for students. And so that starts with that. What's the product vision? How's the product going to be able to solve for that? That then ties together with what marketing has to say. And obviously marketing needs to be able to coordinate and deliver on that. And so what we're, as kind of go-to-market and sales practitioners, is really taking inputs from the product strategy, the plan that has in place, the features that it brings to the table, and then how that is then positioned to the needs and challenges of of our customers ultimately, and our customers are truly partners. And so we're not there to try to convince them that, this is the right product for them just because we say it is. It's really because of what it delivers ultimately.
Yeah, so it sounds like a big web of interconnected elements, but one thing that's at the center of that are outcomes, and yours are student outcomes. So you've got this mission of improving access to career resources, which absolutely addresses a really big gap in higher education. From your perspective, what are the biggest challenges to achieving that outcome? The things that students actually face in utilizing career services today?
Yeah. Yeah.
And how do you uniquely solve these?
Ironically, it's the university's prioritization of it. The colleges is usually tends to prioritize either academics or admissions, and then the day in the life of a student while they're kind of going through it. And so more money spent on athletics and the cafeteria and probably what kind of swag they've got going on versus you're going to do after college and the
Yeah.
investment that schools really make in helping students kind of get to college. My daughter just graduated high school and we're going to start to enter that, and that's kind of obviously one of the most important things that we look for is it's not ultimately the experience that they have in the first 4 years, but where does that college degree really take them after school. And so I think that what Uconnect really tries to do is close the gap there. One of the scariest statistics out there is that less than 50% of students visit their higher ed career offices one or fewer times, or I say one or more times, during their career, which means that most schools are not really reaching the students where they are and really helping them get to where they need to get to. And Uconnect is there to really solve that problem. It's to make sure that it's easy, it's accessible, it's prioritized, it's on their own terms, and so that every student has an opportunity to really get the most out of what that college has to offer, even when it's limited in scope as it is in most institutions.
That's fantastic. And so this concept of opportunity is a really big one there because that's the thing that's typically lacking when people don't get an opportunity. It's an opportunity that most people need. So that's good. Hey, this message right here is for our listeners. If you are in education or ed tech, what advice would you give on aligning revenue growth strategies with a mission-driven approach that truly benefits students and institutions?
Could you ask it one more time?
So, what advice would you give on aligning revenue growth strategies with a mission-driven approach that truly benefits the students and the institution?
Yeah, I think it's really important to not to try to search for a lot of revenue opportunities. It's easy to just say, okay, especially in this kind of high growth environment into an area where a lot of influence comes from either private equity or the investor side. It's, hey, you just got to find revenue growth at any kind of point. You got to remember what you're in business for, and you're in business really to solve a problem and to understand and recognize what that problem is. And oftentimes the communities that we're serving, higher ed institutions and particularly departments within the institution that are typically underfunded or have just limited resources, you got to meet them where they are and recognize that, hey, you're not always just going to be able to grow revenue because you need to, or you have to sell them another product or sell them another tool. They're limited. And so you've got to refine your ability to solve that problem and then come up with creative ways of and strategic ways of growing the revenue pool for your business while recognizing that who you're serving only has so many means. And so it's very easy to just apply a typical SaaS model or a growth strategy and say, hey, we're going to just land and expand and we're going to capture you, grow over time. But the reality is that particularly in higher ed, they don't grow as scalably as they do on the commercial side or in the private sector. And the money is a little tighter. And so
Yeah.
you be able to really kind of think about how you're going to grow, not just necessarily in your department, but maybe more horizontally over the institution, then kind of find opportunities within the partnerships that you've developed.
That's good. Okay, so this is actually an interaction for our audience right here. I want the audience to think about your own organization's growth and mission alignment. How do you ensure that your sales and product strategies serve your customers' deeper needs? I would love for you all to share your thoughts with us on LinkedIn and social media using Dynamic Decisions Podcast. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your leadership. So you've held leadership roles at companies like People Grove and Copper Inc. You've driven significant revenue growth and customer success improvements. How have these experiences shaped your approach to leading sales teams and driving innovation specifically at Uconnect?
I've had the opportunity to really experience a lot of different types of industries. I started off my career in kind of the graphic design business and the client service side and getting hands dirty and in project work. And my first role in the tech side was in marketing automation and really seeing the kind of combination of these different channels and bringing data approaches and then CRM and then ultimately EdTech. And they've all kind of had commonalities and differences in how you approach customers and scale. And so I think that's really the thing that's kind of stood out most is that having a variety of different types of problems to solve and different business lines and revenue approaches has influenced ultimately what helped frame my approach to decision making. And it's giving me the opportunity to test a lot of theories while at the same time recognize the patterns that kind of consistently seem to work there effectively.
So Uconnect operates in a very competitive landscape of career services platforms. How do you actually differentiate the value prop, and what innovations or trends do you see shaping right now the future of career services in higher education? I know, AI is AI for what it's for, but what about other innovations? It could be artificial intelligence as well, but I'd love to get your future view.
We really look at not necessarily as trying to compete against other tools and technologies within the ecosystem, but really make sure that all of those tools and technologies that institutions are investing in are reaching the audience that they're intending them to reach, those students. I mentioned that statistic about 50% get access to career services over their life, and that's just not enough. Like the students are investing in their education, they really need to be able to get access to that, and that's the challenge. Is you've got all of these resources and these tools available that a lot of institutions have and they're investing in, but because of the way that they're either kind of promoted or the way that the university invests in technology to promote that, the prioritization of the reach and the resources that institutions have to be able to get them to students, not everyone's getting there, and so when 50% aren't accessing it, there's a problem with access. And so that's really where Uconnect steps in. We're about providing the conduit of access, which means it's a portal, it's a landing page, and it brings together the power of all those technologies in an integrated fashion, and it brings it together so that the career services office can really make sure that they're reaching every student that they possibly can reach, those that aren't necessarily getting the support that they need. So that's really where we fit. We fit really in that bringing it all together versus actually trying to kind of.
Yeah. Again, going back to everyone getting an opportunity. So your process is really set around that. Let me ask you a little bit about something you said, that mentoring and developing talent is key to your leadership style. Are there any principles in particular that you use specifically in building sales org that doesn't just hit targets, but actually really truly collaborates? They really learn. They're really resilient. And I'm asking this from decision forward lens, right? So you've got some things that you often decide to do.
I probably take a variety of approaches to my management style, depending on the situation, that we're in. But what I really like to do is be kind of continuously learning, but also kind of refining and modeling the things that are working the most effectively. I look at the teams that I work with. It depends on where they come from. If they have a lot of experience, I tend to want to learn from them. Like what have they really seen that works, but then give them the tools to be able to scale that on top of it. I look at myself not as necessarily the one that's going to be the smartest one in the room, but really just hey, I can synthesize things that work really well, aggregate them into a process and a system that can scale out, and then just give them the tools to be able to affect against that, and then provide them the feedback that shows, hey, this is working, this isn't, where can we refine here and there, and open up ideas to different ways of looking at things. But I feel like people are most invested in their own success when they have an opportunity to contribute to what works and what doesn't work, and everyone operates a little bit differently. Especially with salespeople, there are people that probably would say they have very little process, but they're the most performant. And then there are ones that are very process oriented and something's not always working, and so how do you figure out, what what the secret is for each one of those?
So I just labeled out your whole opportunity framework, because opportunity is the key word. You've said it so many times today. So It's learn, refine, model, scale, feedback. And then when you do that, you come back and learn some more, refine some
Right,
more.
yeah.
You like that? You
Yeah.
take that with you. It's yours. You came up with that. Okay, so now why don't we take a look at your decision making persona? So, we're going to explore your decision making style through a persona assessment. I'm going to ask you four different questions. Each one of them represents a different decision making approach. And after I give you one, you'll tell me how much the way that I'm asking the question resonates with how you actually approach your decisions. So you'll get a scale of 0 to 100% for each one, but you only get 100% across all four. And so I want you to give me your percentage and then tell me a little bit of why, right, for each one. We'll get started. And the first one is called the feeler. It's a values driven leader. This persona prioritizes alignment with core values and mission, often weighing the human impact and cultural fit of decisions alongside business metrics. When considering new sales strategies or partnerships at Uconnect, I ask myself, does this align with our mission to empower students and build lasting relationships with educational institutions? Even if a faster revenue path exists, I want to ensure that we're creating meaningful impact beyond just numbers. How much of you is that?
Probably 25%.
Okay, 25% feeler. Tell me a little more.
So I would say that my default is not to feel too much. I don't like to think I know what it is. I really want to dig into it and see both sides. My approach tends to emphasize looking at all angles, all steel man things so I can see, hey, well, if we take this approach, how might that impact it? Well, we've got consideration and trade-off. So, it might have been biased a little bit by the word feeler because I think like, feeling it out is probably not the best. I'm really more analytical.
Got it. Well, I think I've got something for you then. Let's take a look. Here's the next one. It's called the planner. It's a strategic visionary. So this persona focuses on long-term implications and future-proofing decisions, always thinking several moves ahead and considering multiple scenarios. When planning growth strategies, I ask myself, what are the long-term implications of this approach for how Uconnect will evolve with changing educational landscapes and technology? I want to ensure that our sales processes and solutions remain scalable and adaptable over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I'm probably 75% there.
Well, then you wouldn't have anything left. And I don't think
Sorry, okay, sorry. I forgot. I had to do the math in my own head.
that's right.
I'll dial that back a little bit.
Yeah. Let's dial that one back just a bunch. What do you think?
Yeah, probably 50%. Yeah.
50%. So that is 50% planner. So you're 25% feeler, 50% planner. Now that only leaves you 25% left for the last two.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
You
well,
ready?
might have to adjust some of those maybe.
Okay, you might. All right, here's the next one. It's called the counter. It's the challenger of assumptions. So this persona naturally questions conventional wisdom and looks for contrarian opportunities, often finding success by zigging when others zag. When evaluating market strategies, I ask myself, what assumptions are we making about how students engage with career services or how sales should be structured that might be wrong? I look for innovative approaches that differentiate Uconnect and challenge industry norms.
Okay, yeah. So I think now like we're gonna have a challenge with the total percentages because that's definitely also aligned with how I think about things. Particularly the challenging assumptions. Like I never like to be anchored to like a preconceived understanding. The first thing I want to do is understand, hey, is there a different model we could potentially approach with? So
you want to take that planner down a little bit?
yeah, I'd
How
probably
much you?
planner down to probably 25, and this is probably going to be in the 40% range.
Okay. All right. So you got 10% left. Let's see how this one rolls out. It's called the data driver, an evidence-based decision maker. So this persona relies heavily on metrics, analytics, and concrete evidence to validate decisions, preferring proof over intuition. Before making key decisions, I ask myself, what does our sales and customer data tell us about the effectiveness of our strategies and the impact on student engagement? I want to see concrete analytics that validate our approach and guide where to focus next.
Yeah, I think that in isolation, I would be pretty strong on that one. But I also think that data is it's important to have a good understanding of it as a starting point. But the other elements, such as challenging assumptions and seeing all the different angles, there's lots of different things that data can tell you. are just as important for that. So I'd probably, all balanced out, probably 20% overall. So again, assuming we're looking at all.
So let's see. I think you're a little over here, though.
Yeah,
If
I
we,
know I am.
yeah. So we got to make an adjustment if you put that at 20.
Yeah, let's dial back the planner one then. Maybe dial back the first one to 20%, planner to
Okay.
20, and then the last two I'd probably split even.
Okay. Good, good, good. All right. Last two are 60, so you go 30, 30. All right, 20, 20, 30, 30. You like it? Awesome. So you are 20% feeler, 20% planner, 30% counter, and 30% data driver. Awesome. It's just a very fun exercise, help you to identify some of the things that's really good to share along with your team sometimes. All right. Thank you so much for doing that. As we wrap up this conversation, I've got a final question for you. So you've been out here helping organizations to scale their revenue while staying mission focused, which I think is absolutely incredible, and doing this in education technology now. If you could give one piece of advice to leaders looking to grow their businesses while they do maintain meaningful impact, what would it be?
I would say it's really important to really understand who you're working for, right? Who your buyer is, right? And really make sure that you're going to be able to provide a solution that like meets them both from where their challenges are, but also what their operation is, and be really relevant to kind of what they need. And it's really important to just understand the opportunity that you have there versus just trying to create a product and sell a process and drive into it and just meet goals and objectives without understanding the larger context.
Thank you for sharing your insights and for sharing your expertise, Justin. It has been a pleasure having you on the show. Your approach to really building up a scalable business and really thinking about growth, I think to me is fairly inspirational, because a lot of times people don't do that with mission in mind. Would you share with our listeners where they can learn more about you and learn more about Uconnect?
Yeah. You can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Justin Oberbauer. Feel free to reach out and connect. And you can learn more about Uconnect at www.gouconnect.com.
Thank you. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Remember, the best decisions come from great conversations. So if you've enjoyed this episode, please do subscribe it, rate it, and share it with your network. Let's keep the conversation going on social media using Dynamic Decisions Podcast. And until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and keep leading with purpose.